And that amounts, even if it's 10 minutes every day, which it's never for kids, by the way. They're using iPhones for hours and hours a day.
Yeah.
We're talking months of their life that is being wasted and cannot be brought back. You get one childhood.
You do.
That's
you get
it.
one childhood. And that I'm so glad you brought that up. I mean, that really is the question, is like, what do we want our kids' memories, their childhood memories, to be filled with? And something else, like, these kids are more connected than ever on the smartphones, but we have this epidemic of loneliness and mental health crisis among teens. And something I found so interesting in my research was that they're getting dopamine on the phone. They're not getting oxytocin. So oxytocin is a hormone that is released when we're in person with someone else, eye contact, physical touch. It's what bonds a mom to her baby. It bonds husband and wife. It bonds friends. The kids, you don't get oxytocin through a screen. And so they're not actually forming deep friendships. It's all these shallow connections based on metrics like likes and followers. And so even if they're connected, they are incredibly lonely. They don't have real friendships. And so when you take that smartphone away, getting back to your original question, that is it possible to take a 15-year-old's phone away? It is. And what you do is you help that child then re-enter the real world, that they can then form real friendships and not be on their device. And families who have done this, they say that they wish they had just done it sooner, because I'm not saying it's not going to be initially hard. There is going to be a period of withdrawal, but you have to just intentionally then fill their lives with real world things. And especially with a teenager, I heard from parent after parent, if you take away the phone, which is this immense kind of privilege of giving them all this freedom in the virtual world, if you restrict that virtual freedom, as you should, you need to give them more freedom in the real world. Freedoms that will actually help them progress towards adulthood and take on more real world responsibilities. This was like my favorite chapter of the book to write, which was trading screens for real world responsibilities, and just what these families then filled childhood with, helping kids take on adult-like chores around the house, becoming responsible for doing the grocery shopping and making a meal for the family, and then turning that outward even into service to others in their communities. And it's just, what's amazing is that service to others in your family and your community is an amazing antidote to anxiety. They're like, our kids weren't anxious anymore because they weren't focused on themselves and how many likes or followers they had. They were serving their family, serving other people. And so even if you only have 3 years left with your child before they go to college, those are 3 years that you can fill with real world memories, and you can help them reform their habits for the habits that you'd want them to have when they enter adult life. And so it's never too late to reverse course and try to help your child develop the skills that you want them to have as an adult.
And they might be angry.
Oh, yes.
And
I mean, teens, yes. Teens are going to be angry. Yes.
Yes. And they might be angry, but you're still their parent.
Yes.
You're still their parent.
That's right.
And they're under your roof and they can follow your rules. And as you said, it might not be easy, but you go through that detox period and it might be hard because all of their friends have phones.
Yeah.
And as you said, though, this is a good opportunity to teach them, well, we're not like everyone else and you don't have to live like the world. And this is better for you. I'm giving you a leg up, actually, compared to a lot of your peers. When it comes to where policy comes in, because we're talking about parental authority, which is so important. And that's going to have the biggest change or biggest impact on your child's life. Yeah. But where does the law come in?
Oh, thank you for asking. I think it's a really important question. And I often get this response, oh, well, we don't need better laws. Like, just leave it up to parents. And I have tried to explain, it's a both and. Yes, parents are always ultimately responsible. They are on the front lines to protect their children, but there are aspects to these harms that are collective in nature that individual parents cannot fight on their own. So one of the biggest laws I've worked on is laws to restrict online pornography websites so that you have to be over the age of 18 to access a pornography website. This is an example of a law that really helps to back parents up, because I, as a parent, could install all the filters on our home computer. I could shut everything down. They don't have a smartphone. They don't have social media. But if they can go to school and their friend on a smartphone can easily just pull up Pornhub and stick it in my child's face, now that's a collective problem. And so why should it only be on parents to protect kids from pornography websites? Why is it not on the pornography websites to make sure they're age restricting their content so that minors aren't accessing that? And now those laws have passed in 23 states. The state of Texas has one I've been very involved in because it's being decided by the Supreme Court. Like any day now, the case Free Speech Coalition versus Paxton, which will rule on the merits of whether or not that law is constitutional.
Are you hopeful?
I am hopeful. I was actually in the courtroom for oral arguments, and I was mainly encouraged that the justices seem to understand that in the smartphone social media era, the idea that filters are a more effective, less restrictive means of protecting children from online pornography just has not been true. That filters have been largely ineffective, and putting it on individual parents with filters is not a sufficient solution. So regardless of exactly how they come down, they may not rule on the merits of the law, but send it back down to the Fifth Circuit to be reviewed under a different legal standard. I am confident that they are going to ultimately get to the right outcome, which is saying that states have to be able to legislate in this area because parents on the front lines do need backup.